What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Studs and Duds, the most comprehensive NFL player review series on the internet. I am your host, Marcus Whitman. Today we're going to be talking about the rising and falling players from around the AFC conference from NFL weeks 5 through 9. Going to be a fun one. Before we do get started, if you could do me a huge favor, please do smash that like button down below. Really appreciate it. It is a free and easy way to support my channel in a very meaningful way. If you enjoy this series, it's the least you could do. Also, make sure you are subscribed down below. Drop a comment to let me know what you think of the changes this week. If you think I omitted any players, do let me know down below. And for anybody that is new to the series, just to get you caught up on what's going down here, well, we're going to be going team by team, talking about the ascending and descending players around the league. And while we do that, I am going to be showing you the ratings changes for my own custom Madden roster, a roster I've been putting out there since 2016. And while those do come from a video game, these changes do come from my own film study and research, and they show how I perceive these players in real life. So now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get started in the AFC North with the Cincinnati Bengals. And the star of the month for the Bengals is going to be Joe Mixon. I think anybody that has Mixon like myself on your fantasy teams has come to appreciate Joe Mixon. A huge week this week. Week 9, but has been so good ever since the Bengals and Zach Taylor have switched to more of a gap running scheme, more trap, more counter, more pin and pull, and it has just fit Joe Mixon's style so much better. It has fixed and fit this offensive line so much better. His yards per attempt nearly doubled. The amount of 10-plus yard runs for him has multiplied by 5. I mean, he's going off, and he looks like one of the best running backs in the league, +2 for Joe Mixon. Then we've got some changes on this offensive line. So La'el Collins, second episode in a row, he's going to come down. Dallas obviously lets him go. The contract he signed was less than myself, and many people predicted he would get on the open market. Just a little bit going on with him. I don't know if it's injury regression or his head just isn't all the way in it, but he has not been that lockdown right tackle and pass protection that he promised Joe Burrow he would be. Then we got Alex Kappa going up here. A good signing there, and definitely a player benefiting from going to more of those gap runs. Him and Ted Karras, we can really bunch these guys together. Two good free agent signings, but coming in here to originally a wide zone Shanahan-style run game with Zach Taylor's offense. Well, Kappa and Karras, not the best athletes there, but really physical power blockers, and you let them just meet the guy in front of him and drive him backwards, you're going to get better results. So Kappa, Karras, and Cordell Volson, their mid-round rookie, has been fine at left guard. Nothing crazy, and he's still getting beat as a young guard would be expected to, but he's been solid. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Sam Hubbard having the best year of his career, just so steady, so persistent as a player. He has been a monster, dropping into coverage, disrupting passes, confusing the quarterback, dropping into coverage from the edge, and nice little player there, Sam Hubbard for the Bengals. And then Joseph Osai as well. Very limited snap counts, but good to see him getting out there. Really talented player. Someone that I thought could have been a first-round pick to the right system. Coming out last year, he ends up, I think, tearing his ACL before we got to see him play in his rookie year. Bengals get him in the 3rd round. He's showing some flashes. They might have something there in Joseph Osai. And then these linebackers both going to go up. Logan Wilson continues to ascend as one of the better linebackers in the league here in year 3. Getting to be a much more consistent tackler, understanding coverage assignments much better. Logan Wilson looking good. And Jermaine Pratt in a contract year. You know, we had Akeem Davis-Gaither going up in the last episode. I don't know if Pratt's going to be necessarily getting a contract extension here, but he has shown out to the rest of the league that he's playing physical, playing better in coverage, so he's going to go up a nice little 1 point there. And then cornerback Chidobe Awuzie. Unfortunately, this is going to go down as a tribute to what was a great season, and I may have jinxed him by putting him in the top 10 of my cornerback power rankings video. But he's going to be done for the year. Going to get a little bit of respect here, though, for being a really dominant corner this season. I believe he might have one more year left on that contract, but he's been balling, and they're going to miss him. And then the kicker, Evan McPherson. This reminds me a lot of Blair Walsh, for those that remember that name. He came into the league for the Minnesota Vikings and was a beast. Rookie kicker, drafted relatively high, and basically disappeared immediately after that. Kickers are just fluky in general, and I'm not saying Evan McPherson's done by any stretch of the imagination, but he has certainly been, well, let's just say not what he was last year, where he was incredible. He's been missing kicks, and he's going to have to turn things around here, or this could go backwards real quick for Evan McPherson. Staying in Ohio with the Cleveland Browns, their star of the month, an unsung hero for this team, Ethan Pocic. So Nick Harris was supposed to be the starting center for them in year 2 here for the Browns, and that was really what felt like a pretty tragic injury because they had expectations for him. Little did they know they had a star center that they picked up basically for nothing from Seattle, and I think he's just a classic case of a talented player that needed a lot of time to develop, a really good athlete. And he has been awesome at center for the Browns. He's actually been probably a top 5 center at least this year, and he skyrocketed last week and continues to ascend this week for that dominant Browns run game. But someone not necessarily helping the Browns run game is Kareem Hunt, who just kind of looks and feels like just another guy this year. Kareem Hunt is really known for 2 things above all. Number one is his impact in the receiving game as a back on third down, and just hasn't been a huge weapon catching the ball out of the backfield. And the other thing is he's known for that ability to consistently break tackles. He's been one of the toughest players to tackle in the NFL since he came into the league. Not so much this year. Those numbers are way down, shows on the film, and he's going to come down as a result. Not a huge surprise there wasn't a big trade market for Kareem Hunt with how he's playing this year. Inversely, Nick Chubb is dominating. He is easily a top 2 back in the league. I think it's either him or Derrick Henry, whoever you want to pick. And for my money, he is the most complete back. When you want to talk about vision, acceleration, he can go gap runs, he can go wide zone. Is that home run threat? I mean, you guys have all seen Nick Chubb play. He is unstoppable this year, and frankly, they could be using him more than they are right now. Then the tight end, David Njoku. Credit to the Browns. They had a little bit of foresight here. A guy that is in their building. They know his work behavior. He's shown little steps of development throughout the years as a former first-round pick. One of the more physically talented tight ends in the league, but has struggled to grasp the little things of the position and has just been so much more consistent, and you're still seeing those flash plays. He has really stepped up as a focal point of the offense. A big part of their offseason hedged on David Njoku playing like this, and it's great to see it because they let Austin Hooper out of the building and extended David Njoku when it was a question on if maybe he would be heading into free agency and a different team. Inversely, Harrison Bryant not really doing a whole lot for this team. It's not for a total lack of trying to get him the ball, but as a tight end too, he's just kind of faded off. He's not blocking well. Someone that had some expectations here that he's not really meeting as their tight end too. Just coming down a touch, 72 to a 71. Hjalti Froholt, my favorite name to say on this channel, a former draft pick of the New England Patriots. The Browns pick him up. He's gotten, I think it was just one start in place of, I want to say it was at right guard. But a physical guy coming out of Arkansas, lived up to some opportunity there in that week. He's going to go up. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Myles Garrett easily could have been a star of the month as well. He gets in that car wreck, misses a game, and since then, he has been the most dominant defensive player in the league, and that includes Micah Parsons. That includes Aaron Donald. Myles Garrett's due for a Defensive Player of the Year one of these days, and I mean, he's right there with Micah Parsons for the most impactful defensive player, the defensive player that you feel his presence the most. The question is, are the Browns going to rally and be a playoff team to the point where he gets those votes? I don't know, but Myles Garrett seems to have gotten even better this year, which is just freaking terrifying. And it kind of felt like after that car wreck, he might have had a drop-off because that was a pretty serious accident. Great to see him healthy and playing well out there. Behind him, you got Sione Takitaki. You got some names on this team, man. He's a rotational linebacker, just super consistent. He's having his best year, kind of defending that wing in that linebacker rotation. That's a pretty heavy rotation in Cleveland. And then the rookie corner, Martin Emerson, another great year for rookie corners. Last year was great, and this year looking pretty damn good too. Martin Emerson, a third-round pick. And, you know, Emerson I thought was like a fine prospect. I think they took him around where he was supposed to go, but he's really settled in from the very beginning. They prefer him to Greedy Williams, who's probably a more physically talented player, at least a faster player. Emerson's really lengthy though, but showing that getting out of the SEC, coming into a zone-heavy system, he's a very heady player and fitting right into this kind of split safety off-zone coverage system really well. He's probably been their best corner this year, which is saying a lot because they got Newsome and Denzel Ward back there. So what a find Martin Emerson has been. And then the kicker, Cade York, who kind of stole the show in that week 1 performance. A little bit of a pump the brakes moment there on the rookie kicker. Has missed a few in the last few weeks. All right, on to the Baltimore Ravens. Very busy week with a lot of movement here. So the star of the month is Isaiah Likely, the outlier, as I'd like to call him. Undersized, small school guy who had a terrible workout, didn't even play well at the Senior Bowl. His draft stock plummeted, but the Ravens trusted the tape, and they are seeing dividends immediately here. And they need a guy like Isaiah Likely to step up because Rashad Bateman is done for the year, and they don't have a ton of options. Mark Andrews even is injured right now. And Isaiah Likely is answering every single call that they have made to him, whether it's playing slot receiver, inline tight end, whatever it may be. He's showing his versatility and that he's just a really freaking good football player, whether it's run after catch, the ability to come down with tough catches, the ability to get open and be a mismatch problem from the slot, also blocking better than you would expect for such a slender tight end. So I'm not even fully comfortable calling him a tight end. I would just call him a big slot wing. We need a name for some of these guys, but God, he's freaking awesome. And it's good to see him find a team willing to use him in that way as well. Then we've got Devin Duvernay. I mean, he's been one of my guys of my guys in recent drafts, and it's just been so fun to see him basically make me look like not an idiot for having a first to a second round grade on him. I think I was higher on Devin Duvernay than anybody in the draft community. He was, I think, my number 6 wide receiver in a loaded class. And God, he just kind of does a little bit of everything for this team. He definitely can contribute from the slot and as a gadget player, jet sweeps, bubble screens, really good player with the ball in his hands. But a big thing I liked about Devin Duvernay was this dude had some of the most reliable hands that I've ever seen from a collegiate prospect. He had I don't even remember, but something like 80 catches or something and only maybe 1 drop in his final year at Texas. Just absurd production and consistency. But now they're even putting him outside, asking him to run go balls, and he's coming down with tough catches, stacking corners on the outside. I didn't even think he could do that. He's also, by the way, the most reliable return man in the league, not just because of his athleticism, but because he is so good at tracking that football, and he's got really secure hands. So I think they could use him even more, and maybe they will now that Bateman is officially done for the year. But Devin Duvernay is my dude, and I have thoroughly enjoyed watching him succeed. And I mean, he's going to be their number 1 wide receiver on this playoff push here. Then we've got Josh Oliver. Selfishly, I want this to stop here because they just activated my other dude, Charlie Kolar. But Oliver has definitely stepped up. They traded for him last year, was a non-factor, but he's blocking better and has even made some catches for this team. Then a lot of changes on this offensive line. Every single starter going up here. So Ronnie Stanley, just so good to see him get back healthy. They've been so patient with him, and Ravens fans have, their patience has been tested. But he's back, and he looks like that top 3 pass protecting left tackle that we know him to be. Morgan Moses, raved about this signing when the Ravens made it, and he's been every bit as good as advertised, and even a little bit better coming into a mauling type of system that the Ravens like to run. Called him I basically said he is Orlando Brown, but you don't have to pay him. And that's why I was raving about this. And now his rating here, I believe, is the exact same as I have on Orlando Brown. Ben Powers at left guard, just incredibly consistent as a pass protector, along with Kevin Zeitler. These guys have been rocks at guard, both them going up. And then Tyler Linderbaum going to go up. Now, he's had his struggles in pass protection, and granted, he's had some tough matchups throughout these last few weeks from a pass protection standpoint. But as a run blocker, just watch that Bucs game. His ability to lead block and just the natural ability with that wrestling background and his athleticism, he's been every bit as good as advertised as a piece up front for this run game. So this offensive line, I think, is as good as it's been for Lamar Jackson probably in his career, honestly. So that's exciting. At least they have that in a year where their receiving situation hasn't been amazing. But then we've got, on the defensive side of the ball, a bunch of dudes in this front seven who are really stepping up this year. So you got Justin Madubuike, who just continues to do a little bit of everything, defend the run, get after the quarterback. He's a guy reaching his potential as a really athletic mid-round pick for Baltimore. But they also seem to have found something in Broderick Washington out of, I think, Texas Tech. I mean, this is just what the Ravens do, man. They get these guys. They have a formula and just a great method to get these guys in, make them a part of the rotation, and sooner or later, they figure things out. Broderick Washington, as a rotational player, has not just been a good run defender, which he was at Texas Tech, but shown a little bit more as a pass rusher as well, as a part of this really chaotic, deep rotation. Justin Houston off the edge. I think we all kind of underrated that signing when they brought him back. He's been, I can't say prime Justin Houston because that was a really special player. But at his age, he keeps signing these one-year deals. And honestly, I think he may have cemented a Hall of Fame career this year, assuming he keeps this up. He's been kind of a fringe player, but he's prolonged this thing. A guy that did have a rapid fall off from his prime, but kind of getting back to maybe 90% of the old Justin Houston, who, followers of the NFL from 2015, 2016, remember him being one of the 3 best pass rushers in football. So, I mean, he has restored some greatness to the Justin Houston name. And even better, he's helping this defense that really needs guys on the edge right now. So, yeah, he's been the best off the edge for them. Patrick Queen has had a complete role reversal after looking like the worst linebacker in the NFL for the first month of the season. I do not regret lowering him because he was terrible, and even Ravens fans would agree with that. But he's been a new man here in October and early November. He has now a great mentor in Roquan Smith next to him, and things seem to be trending back up for the young Patrick Queen. Also got to shout out Malik Harrison. They've used him in kind of a weak side, outside backer hybrid type of role. I think that Tyus Bowser is hurt, and I think they're kind of using him a little bit off the edge and kind of just rotating him in and around. Big guy, a guy that I respect, I think is still rated appropriately. I think I have him at a 68, but he's done some good stuff for this Ravens defense. Wanted to shout him out. Could be due for a boost if he keeps playing well in that kind of tweener hybrid role. And then these safeties, Geno Stone has really stepped up. They've had some injuries back there, and he's gotten some opportunities. Really smart player out of Iowa. On the other hand, Chuck Clark really struggling. Feeling pretty good that they drafted Kyle Hamilton, I think, because Chuck Clark just isn't a cover safety. He's still been a good impact in run defense, and Chuck Clark is what he is. But I think some of those liabilities in coverage getting a little bit exposed and attacked a little bit more this year. He's been giving up some big plays back there. But Kyle Hamilton, their first-round pick, is definitely settling in. They didn't really know how to use him in the first couple weeks, and honestly, just their defensive scheme in general, they were trying to figure everything out in the first month. Well, they've slotted him right in the exact role that myself and other draft analysts like Brett Coleman said he needed to be used in, and that's the J-Ron Curse role. He's a rotational safety. He hovers around the line of scrimmage. He comes in passing downs, and he's just a menace over the middle of the field. He's got that crazy wingspan, those instincts, really good at reading the quarterback's eyes and being that reactionary zone buzz defender. And he's gotten his hands on some passes, and definitely defenses have felt his presence. You kind of knew the Ravens would find out the right way to use him, and it's been fun to see him in that role that he belongs in. Real quick before we get to the next team, if you're enjoying the analysis here, I want you to scroll down, find that link to my podcast in the description below. Give it a follow. I think you'll enjoy the show every week, kind of similar to this every week, where we're breaking down games, talking about the players and how they're playing in a little bit of a different format. But yeah, check out my podcast if you aren't already, or just search Fully Inflated Football wherever you get your audio podcasts. And let's get back to the video. Then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers wrapping up the AFC North here. Much shorter list for Pittsburgh. Their star of the month is going to be my dude, Cameron Sutton. Predicted a breakout for him, and it has absolutely come. I mean, the fact that he's doing this from the outside again, because they've had some injuries there, because he was dominant from the slot, which is really what you would expect him to do with his size profile. But again, they're pushing him outside, and he's honestly, I think, one of the headiest corners in the league. Just so instinctive, and I just love Cam Sutton. And hopefully now getting William Jackson in there, he can be surrounded, and maybe TJ Watt back, we could see just a better defense. But they have a corner in Cam Sutton there. But on the offensive side of things, Jaylen Warren going to come up. He looks okay as an undrafted pickup out of Oklahoma State. Nothing crazy, but he's been running hard and deserves a boost. Najee Harris, however, deserves to come down. And I think this is a little bit of the Saquon Barkley syndrome. We know Najee Harris is super talented, but he's not producing. He's not getting run blocking in front of him, but he's trying to get a little bit too creative. He's hesitating. He's bouncing. And he just has not been a great running back this year. I still think Najee Harris is extremely talented, and with better blocking in front of him, he can easily get back to greatness, because I thought he was really great as a rookie. But yeah, he needs to come down. He's just been really inefficient. George Pickens going to come up. I mean, he's the rookie that everybody loves talking about. His production hasn't been like insane, but when they do go his way, you can tell he's just a special player. His catch radius is unique. Reminds me a lot, actually, of Dez Bryant, which is ironic because, like, the reason he fell in the draft is because he had someone at Georgia that had to be like his babysitter. That was kind of the off-field concern with him, was just super immature. If you remember, Dez Bryant kind of had that same concern. But Dez Bryant had the same ability to just come down with everything. And that's George Pickens. His reach and his leaping ability to track the ball in the air, his body control. That's what really stands out about him. If he can continue to refine his routes, he's going to be a truly special receiver in the NFL. Then we got Pat Freiermuth, just been really consistent. Someone that Kenny Pickett has definitely shown that he likes. A reliable piece over the middle of the field. And then one more guy in the defense, Cameron Hayward, is going to come down. He just has not been that elite player. He's still good. I still love Cam Hayward, but getting up there in age, and you can't really argue with it. They are pretty toothless up front, and his seeming age regression is a part of that. All right, let's head east to the AFC East. The star of the month for Buffalo is going to be Stefon Diggs. Talked about him in my wide receiver / cornerback power rankings video, where I think he is making a case to be, let's just say, the second best receiver in the NFL, because we'll actually see with our next team here with Miami that Tyreek Hill is really taking over the league right now. But Stefon Diggs, to me, has taken a next step up with his mentality and awareness at the position. He's sitting down in zones. He's playing with a unique chemistry with Josh Allen that is just continuing to grow. We know he's a great route runner, but his ball skills and hands have been more consistent as well. So Stephon Diggs definitely ascending towards the elite of the elite. We already knew he was elite, but it's been another level up this year, if that was even possible. But he's been awesome. And then running back James Cook, we lowered him in the first episode of Studs and Duds, going to get one of the 2 overall points back. They've been throwing him the ball a little bit more, but something's still just a little bit off there. They go and trade for Nyheim Hines, but James Cook last week got some more targets, and just he looks explosive. He looks natural. I don't really know why they felt the need to go get Nyheim Hines after they spent a second-round pick on James Cook, but he's probably going to have to take a little bit of a back seat for the foreseeable future, even though he showed that I think he can play. And then we've got, on the defensive side of the ball, 3 linebackers going up. They've had some injuries there, but Tremaine Edmonds, I think, has really figured stuff out. I mean, he's a smart dude. He's a physical freak. He's got all of the coaching and help around him, and we are seeing him rise as one of the top linebackers in this league, just playing with a ton of confidence and know-how at the position, been a much more secure tackler. You felt him in zone. You felt him as a rusher, just playing faster. He's been awesome. And then these backups both deserve some credit, who have stepped up again with some opportunities. So Tyrell Dotson has done this in years past. He's clearly reliable depth that they like there. And then Terrell Bernard, a rookie out of Baylor, got, I think it was 1 start there with Matt Milano missing some time. And I'm not going to say they didn't miss a beat because Milano's been awesome, but they didn't really miss a beat. So Terrell Bernard in 1 start going to go up there. And then in the secondary, some of these guys stepping up as well. Christian Benford continues to play really well back there, kind of forcing his way on the field. They're still kind of trying to figure out what their best rotation of corners is going to be, but Benford just continues to play pretty well in about 25, 30 snaps a game. Dane Jackson as well, pretty stable back there. Neither of these guys have been like incredible playmakers or lockdown corners. You know, they will get beat, but they've been just kind of solid back there. And then Damar Hamlin has had to step up and play a lot of safety here with these injuries. Obviously, Micah Hyde done for the year, but Poyer has missed some time. Hamlin is this year 2 or year 3? I can't remember. Bills fans, let me know in the comments down below. But Hamlin coming out of Pittsburgh, a heady player, kind of the Bills type back there with a hybrid skill set. Showing that he can at least be decent depth for Da Bills. Okay, the Miami Dolphins, we talked about this. Tyreek Hill, he's got to be in there as star of the month, but you also can't job Tua either. These guys have taken the league by storm, and let's start with Tua. I mean, the last 2 weeks, he's looked like Drew Brees back there, playing on time, the accuracy over the middle of the field. Yes, he's got this perfect system and these perfect playmakers for his skill set around him, but Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle wouldn't be producing like this if it wasn't such a perfect match with Tua. It's all working together in unison, and his consistency and his confidence and ability to attack the middle of the field is a big part of that. So Tua getting his flowers here. He's really trending up. And like I said, if he continues to play with the consistency that he had the last 2 weeks, the Drew Brees comps are in full force. Now, you can go back 3 weeks ago in his return against Pittsburgh, and he made some, boneheaded decisions and tried to throw 4 interceptions in that game. So it's still not all perfect with Tua, but it's been mostly perfect for Tua. And then Tyreek Hill, I feel like, he's getting a +5. He's going up to a 98 here. It's the big difference is the consistency with his hands. I think he had like 14 drops in his last season with the Chiefs, and he's eliminated those errors. He continues to just come down with contested catches down the field. That's another big thing here with Tyreek is, obviously his separation is better than anybody in the league. But Tua, his biggest flaw is that ability to push the ball downfield. And Tyreek Hill is just so natural at turning around, tracking, and elevating for those underthrows. It is what it is. You can't argue with it. But Tyreek Hill makes him wrong in those situations consistently. He's done it like 4 or 5 times this year, it feels like. So Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in the NFL undoubtedly at this point. I mean, he's on pace for like 2,100 yards. It's ridiculous. Running away with Offensive Player of the Year. And honestly, could probably get into the MVP conversation. So other players here are succeeding as well. Jeff Wilson, just one start here for the Dolphins. This is more about what he did for San Francisco the last few weeks. He's been running hard, good wide zone fit. Veteran there gets traded over here after they sent Chase Edmonds to the Broncos. Obviously, Jeff Wilson, someone that Mike McDaniel, familiar with, and just kind of comes right into this system that he obviously is familiar with. It's the same offense and resumes as the starter here in Miami. A nice little trade to pick him up. Then we got Jalen Waddle. You know, he's kind of forgotten a little bit with Tyreek Hill here, but Jalen Waddle's also on pace for like 1,700 yards. He's been killing it. He was drafted 6th overall for a reason, so explosive, and he in his own right is coming together and playing with more consistency. So he's going up for the second episode in a row. However, Mike Gesicki has struggled to find his role within this offense. He hasn't been horrible, but rated pretty nicely there as an 83. He just hasn't been able to, again, become a part of this offense and needs to come down a little bit. Was in trade talks, stock down a little bit for Mike Gesicki. Nothing crazy. Can definitely get those 2 points back, but I think we needed to knock him down a little bit. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Emmanuel Ogbah has been quite the disappointment. I think his lack of production, his inability to get after the quarterback after they gave him a contract extension, I think is a big part of why they felt the need to go get Bradley Chubb. It just hasn't been there for Emmanuel Ogbah, no doubt. Jalen Phillips, on the other hand, my goodness, the last few weeks have been really encouraging for him, and he's shown flashes for sure. And honestly, his play makes it a little bit confusing to me why they traded for Bradley Chubb. I felt like they were really getting a lot from Jalen Phillips and Melvin Ingram on the other side. You do have Ogbah here. Look, we talked about it on the podcast. Like I said, go check out the Fully Inflated Football podcast if you want to hear more about that trade. But I think Jalen Phillips is actually playing better than Bradley Chubb right now, and he is really reaching that ceiling. Definitely was the highest ceiling edge player in that class. The kind of head injury question marks that caused him to fall a little bit in that draft don't seem to be an issue for him. And if that's the case, he is a guy that has number one edge potential. The last few weeks has absolutely played up to that potential. Let's see if he can keep it going. Then we got Duke Riley, has gotten a lot of just kind of rotational opportunities at linebacker for this team. He's an athletic guy that a lot of these athletic linebackers just take time. And it's, hasn't been a lot of snaps or anything, but Duke Riley has looked the part when he's been out there for this defense. And then in the secondary, they got to get healthy back there, man. They really do. But having a Cater Coho as an undrafted pickup out of Texas A&M Commerce, he's been awesome. He's played some slot. I think he's even played a little bit outside lately, but just been a pretty stable guy. He's honestly probably been their best corner this year because, as you'll see there, Xavier Howard going to come down. I don't think Howard's bad. I think he's still a damn good corner, but just has not played quite up to that 88 this year. He's given up 6 touchdowns and has been getting beat a little bit more than in years past. So I do think he had to come down a little bit. But there's your Dolphins. Let's move on to New England now. A huge list of change for New England. Not a huge surprise. This is a team that makes a ton of adjustments, is not afraid to bench guys and get different guys into the mix. So you're going to see a lot of movement here. But the star of the month for the New England Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson, has absolutely captured that running back one role from the Patriots. He's kind of made Damian Harris an afterthought here. He's going up 5, up to an 82. And we talked about Kareem Hunt earlier and what he's known for. Well, I've talked about this in the past. Ramondre Stevenson, to me, is like a spitting image of Kareem Hunt in his prime. And he's doing that, breaking tackles and making that first guy miss. Been so reliable. He is just such a talented, physical, big back. Definitely the Patriots type. And I think he's here to stay, whereas Damian Harris probably going to be starting for someone else next year. He could be a nice little pickup for somebody. Then the quarterback room here, Mac Jones, is going to come down. He just hasn't been good. Anybody that's watched the Patriots knows it. He's putting the ball in harm's way. He hasn't been that methodical guy, honestly, that he was as a rookie. So a little bit of a pump the brakes moment here for Mac Jones. Still a lot of football, a lot of career ahead of Mac Jones, but not playing his best ball, that's for sure. Bailey Zappi also needs to get some respect. He stepped in as the backup and played very valiantly. Going to go up 64 to a 66. Kendrick Bourne going to come down 1. Just hasn't been totally involved in this offense. And in the opportunities that he has gotten, he hasn't really made the most of them. So he's going to come down 1. But Isaiah Wynn dropping down 5. We got to have a conversation about Isaiah Wynn. They change him to the right side of the line. There's lots of talks about, he's just not going to get extended here. They're kind of out on Isaiah Wynn. And he even played a little bit of left guard last week. Wasn't good there either. But, a guy that looked like a really good pick a long time ago, like 3 years ago. He's had a total fall from grace. I could see him turning things around and getting back to playing at a high level, but it doesn't feel like that's going to be here in New England. And he has had a rough year there. He's been getting beat, and there's a reason there the Patriots don't really see him as a franchise tackle as his contract looms. However, Mike Onwenu is absolutely a franchise guard. He's been a top at least 10 guard in the NFL, probably since the day he came into the league. But just super consistent, a rock in pass protection, super strong. His raw strength is up there with any lineman in the NFL, and it shows. Then center, James Ferentz. He's had to step in at center. David Andrews has been beat up these last couple weeks, and he's played all right. He's, I think, the son of Iowa's head coach at 33 years old there. That's a classic Bill Belichick player right there, but yeah, a little end-of-career emergence for James Ferentz, or I think it's Ferentz. Then on the defense, Matthew Judon. I've been talking a lot about Judon this week, where he is a legitimate Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He is leads the NFL in sacks. He's second in pressures. He has been a monster. Now, a lot of that is manufactured pressure. A lot of it is unblocked stunt stuff where things are getting schemed up for him. That's a benefit he gets from playing with Belichick, but it's not that he isn't winning one-on-one either. So Matt Judon going up to 83 to an 85. What a signing he was last year. All he's done is kick ass and take names since he got to New England. Dietrich Wise having the best year of his career, causing a lot of chaos, and a lot of those Matt Judon sacks and pressures are thanks to Dietrich Wise get off and disruptive ability up front. These guys play off of each other very well as edge and like 4-eye rushers there. Then you got Anthony Jennings as a rotational guy, Josh Uche. I liked this young edge group. And these guys are both getting some opportunities, producing when they're out there. Uche in particular, he kind of just disappeared, but now he's back. And I think he's a super talented player with so much upside in a Bill Belichick scheme. And I'm excited that he's kind of healthy and out there now because he's just really explosive and physical. Both these linebackers are going up. Classic Belichick thumpers, Jawan Bentley, Jelani Tavai. Both guys have been patrolling that middle of the field, getting muddy up in between the trenches, using those 250-pound bodies to do what Belichick asked these guys to do. It's a familiar sight, and those guys are executing. Then the cornerbacks, we've got Marcus Jones, very limited opportunities for the third-round pick out of Houston, but he has been getting out there and getting some hands on footballs and crowded cornerback room with how some of these guys are playing, but it seems like they found something there. And then Jack Jones as well just continues to be a steal for the Patriots. Such a smart cornerback there, and what a find he's been. He's been one of the stories of this 2022 draft class. But Jonathan Jones deserves his flowers as well. He's having the best year of his career, being asked to be this team's number one corner. The Patriots trusted him to step into that role, and he is definitely paying it back to them and dominating this year. Jonathan Jones there is like 29 years old. He's been here forever, but don't forget about him. Before we go any further, let me tell you about my friends at SeatGeek. Whenever I'm going to sporting events, I buy my tickets on SeatGeek. It is, in my opinion, the number one ticketing app out there, and I've tried them all. You consistently find the best prices there. They have a great user interface that'll help you find exactly where you want to sit. And if you're going last moment, you'll get your tickets on the app within moments of your order. And now, by using promo code FranchiseGuy, you'll even save $20 on your first purchase. So if you plan on going to any sporting events or concerts, it's a no-brainer. You're already going to get the best prices there anyway. You'll save $20 on that price, and you'll support my channel in the process. So that's promo code FranchiseGuy on SeatGeek, and let's get back to it. All right, the New York Jets, who knocked down the Buffalo Bills last week. A lot of positive movement for the Jets. None other than Sauce Gardner, who just halfway through his rookie season looks like maybe the best cornerback in the entire NFL. This is one of those rookie seasons that we'll look back on. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Micah Parsons all come to mind recently. Sauce Gardner is that level of a player. And to do that at corner, I think, is even more impressive. This is a position that, I mean, the last 2 years have been a little different, but traditionally it takes time for these guys to figure it out. Not Sauce Gardner. He is doing exactly what he did at Cincinnati, locking dudes down on the outside. I'm just blown away with how consistent he is with his technique. He's lengthy, he's athletic, he's smart. There is nothing you cannot say about Sauce Gardner. I think if you did a redraft right now, he's probably the number one pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then, unfortunately, you know, all this good stuff can happen here, but if Zach Wilson doesn't figure things out, it's not a lot of this isn't going to matter, and he has not played well. Now, last week against the Bills was his best game of the last month, but he's just got to come down, man. He can't really handle the blitz. He's not playing well under pressure. That Patriots game was hideous. So if he didn't play a little bit better against the Bills, this might have been a -2. So at least there's that. But it's just been really inconsistent for Zach Wilson. Then we got Michael Carter going up. He's running really hard. He's breaking tackles. He's not Breece Hall, but he's a damn good back in his own right. So he's going to go up one. Really good game against the Bills. And then Garrett Wilson, another very special player. Honestly, if Sauce Gardner wasn't the number one pick in a redraft, it might be Garrett Wilson, which was a take of mine, that he's a top 4 player in this class, a wide receiver position that when you look at free agency, the trade market, the contract market, you know, these wide receivers are sometimes getting treated like quarterbacks. Yet a guy like Garrett Wilson falls to the 10th spot in the draft because you don't traditionally draft a receiver in the top 3. It just doesn't add up to me. So Garrett Wilson, to get him at 10, the clear-cut best wide receiver in this draft class to me, his route running, his ability to attack the football, his movement skills, truly remarkable. Now, his teammate, Chris Olave, has been awesome too. But what Garrett Wilson has done since they've started to really design the passing game through him, he definitely looks like that Stephon Diggs comparison that I put on him. Really special player. Give him a watch, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Just the way he moves is so fun. Then some movement on this offensive line positively. 2 guys, 2 pickups. You know, Joe Douglas is honestly one of the better general managers in the league. And I do got to do that general manager rankings video soon, and I'm getting really close to doing that. But how many teams around the league get some injuries on the offensive line and just fall apart? Not the Jets. And that reason is they picked up Nate Herbig, who didn't make the loaded Eagles roster, but has played well. They find a Cedric Ogbuehi off the street who fits their system pretty well. And these guys are playing really well. And they're sustaining they're not dominant players, but adequate depth, which is really easier said than done to find in the NFL. So all of this stuff is impressive from Joe Douglas, but sometimes these little moves of finding, good backups, low-end starters on the offensive line for nothing, that's some of the most valuable stuff you can do. So Cedric Ogbuehi and Nate Herbig going up. And then on the defense, Quinnen Williams getting a +4. I mean, he could have been a star of the month. Garrett Wilson could have been a star of the month. A lot of these guys having just a huge month on the defensive side of the ball here for them especially. But Quinnen Williams definitely seems to have reached his potential. Looks like one of those premium pass rushers in the trenches there. Was a blue chip player for me coming out, and he's had some ups and downs in his career, but I think he's settled in, and man, I mean, he's an alpha. He's a blue chip alpha for this team. He's a big part of their success. And then Nathan Shepard as well has stepped up as a rotational piece up front. He's going to actually get a pretty big opportunity because Sheldon Rankins has played well for them. He's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, and Nathan Shepard is one of the only remaining big bodies they have in there. So it's good to know he's played well. He's in a contract year, I believe. So, he was a decent prospect coming out. Maybe just needed some time to adjust to the NFL game. Excited to see him maybe be a starter here for this team for the next few weeks. Then we got Bryce Huff, my freaking dude, Bryce Huff. I wish I had been talking about him more this year. It's tough because he's a part of like a 5 or 6 man rotation up front. But on a per snap basis, he's their most efficient pass rusher. He really is. I mean, I loved him coming out of Memphis. I had a 3rd to a 4th round. No, I had just a straight up 3rd round grade on him. And then I think I bumped it down to a 3rd to a 4th because he didn't even get a freaking combine invite. He ends up going undrafted. His tape was so fun out of Memphis. A bendy dude with twitch, obviously, but legit pass rush moves, just understands the craft of getting after the quarterback. And every time they put him out there, he's coming down with pressures. He has that strip sack on Josh Allen to seal the game. He's so good. And I like him in this role as a rotational guy, but he's someone that I do believe could be a starter in this league. He has met the call every time they've asked him, and it goes back to last year. So Bryce Huff, one of my favorite guys to root for in the league. For a while, he followed me on Twitter, actually, because I was out there pounding the table, like, why did this guy not get a combine invite? I think he deleted his Twitter nowadays, but I wanted to see if I could maybe have him on the podcast. But yeah, Bryce Huff's awesome. Michael Clemens is awesome. He is just perfect for this Jets team. It makes so much sense. Like, they used all these picks. They had one more 4th rounder remaining. And they're like, well, what do we like? We like big-bodied, badass dudes up front that just want to throw their bodies around, that are really strong and physical. And we don't really have any other needs, but let's just take another one of these guys. And Michael Clemens has been awesome. I mean, I'm not even trying to slight Jermaine Johnson. I think Jermaine Johnson's played fine. But Michael Clemens he looks just like Jermaine Johnson out there. These guys are playing very similar roles right now, both as rookies. He kind of did this at Texas A&M. Wasn't like a high upside pass rusher or anything like that, but you could see the intensity that he plays with, and he is the perfect Robert Salah rotational edge guy. So just another good find there. And then you get to the secondary. We already talked about Sauce. But shit, even Michael Carter, their slot corner, is breaking out this year. Everything is working for this Jets defense. Carter's figuring things out. A heady, kind of classic slot corner type, playing well. And then DJ Reed as well. He gets lost in the sauce, literally, but he's great in his own right. This has been the best cornerback duo in the NFL. He had a great pass breakup on Stephon Diggs in this game against the Bills. I mean, he's got legit physical tools. He's maybe the smartest. I'm not going to say he's the smartest corner in the NFL, but he might be up there. He's definitely up there. He's been outstanding going back to his time in Seattle ever since he was put on the outside of these defenses. So DJ Reed going up 3 up to an 83. And then Jordan Whitehead has settled in as well. He struggled early on for this Jets defense. But clearly getting more comfortable with the system. He's making plays. He's been in a lot of passing lanes, gets the big interception on Josh Allen, even though he threw it right to him. But yeah, Whitehead's playing much better. It was a big free agent signing. Looking much more like that guy in Tampa that was a hell of a football player than the player we saw in the first month of the season here. Then even their punter, Braden Mann, helping out the field position, young player, kicking the football well. All right, on to the Indianapolis Colts. A ton of movement here. It's been a weird season for the Colts, but the star of the month is going to be Bobby Okereke. He has had to step in as this team's number 1 linebacker, and simply put, he's met the call. I mean, he's honestly a better athlete than Darius Leonard coming out of Stanford there, and his coverage has probably been better than what Darius Leonard has shown throughout his career. Now, Leonard does a lot of unique stuff for this defense, and the fact that they could potentially get these two guys together into the future is huge. And I'm bringing up the fact that Okereke is a better guy in coverage because that opens up things for the Colts to use Darius Leonard in his biggest strengths, kind of hovering around the line of scrimmage, being that disruptive force, whereas Okereke can be more of that get depth cover linebacker. So that part of his game's been good, but being the mic for this team, being their number one guy, flying sideline to sideline, been super consistent. He's a great player in his own right, and we might have one of the better linebacking duos in the NFL here in Indianapolis now that hopefully Darius Leonard can get healthy there, because he just hasn't been out there. I think he's played like 60 snaps in 3 games for them, and when he's been out there, he honestly hasn't looked healthy. But let's start now with the offense. Sam Ehlinger is going to go up. It is what it is. I mean, he was rated as a 57. More of a Madden thing than anything here. Ehlinger's not really playing well. He looks like a third-string quarterback. He's made some throws. Like, his accuracy's not been horrible. Like, I guess, he's earned this, I suppose. But let's be honest, he's not been good. Then we got Jonathan Taylor. He's got to come down, man. I mean, I know the run blocking is not what it was last year, but I also don't think the run blocking is, like, egregiously terrible. It's certainly not good, but Taylor should be doing a little bit more than he's doing when we had him rated as the top back in the NFL. He's just not been quite as explosive, and he just had to come down. I think even Colts fans might agree, a little bit of a pump the brakes moment on Jonathan Taylor after his breakout season last year. But Alec Pierce is going to come up. It's been an inconsistent season for sure, but the flashes from him are awesome, and that's with really bad quarterback play. You're pretty optimistic from what you've seen from Alec Pierce, and that you've got a pretty nice group of players there with Pierce and Pittman and these tight ends. Even though these tight ends haven't had the best few weeks. But lots of movement here on the offensive line. Matt Pryor getting shattered here. They had big expectations for him at left tackle, and my goodness, did they whiff. That's a big part of what has transpired here for the Colts' kind of downfall. Is Matt Pryor not working out after playing pretty well last year, and they doubled down on him. They gave him like $4 million. Woof, man. He's been probably the biggest liability out of any lineman this year. They've benched him at 3 different positions now: left tackle, right tackle, and right guard. But the right tackle, Braden Smith, also going to come down. Just, his efficiency in pass protection has not been what we're used to from him. And even as a run blocker, it's come down a little bit. So he's got to come down. Quentin Nelson's got to come down. Same deal. Just hasn't been that top guard in the league. And honestly, it's not a debate at this point. There's several guards in the NFL better than Quentin Nelson. So he's got to just start playing better football, man. He's got to live up to that contract he got. And he's not been bad by any stretch of the imagination, but his pressure rate allowed is the highest in his career. Obviously, this run blocking has not been what we're used to. And Ryan Kelly, same deal. So it's not just a guy like Matt Pryor not, meeting some opportunity here. It's their star players that they're paying to be elite linemen are not playing like that. So all 3 of those guys got to come down. But defensively, we got Zaire Franklin has gotten some opportunities. EJ Speed, they've had some opportunities for these linebackers, and all these guys have honestly looked really good. They've got a really talented linebacker room there for sure. And then cornerback Isaiah Rodgers is going to go up, while Brandon Faison is going to come down. So Faison was the guy that followed Gus Bradley over here from Las Vegas, fits the system, the lengthy zone, cover 3 corner. Meanwhile, they had Isaiah Rodgers here on the team already, a young player, incredible athlete, but an undersized guy who doesn't fit that physical mold of a Gus Bradley defense. Well, it's time. You guys are in a tank mode. We know what Brandon Faison is. Isaiah Rodgers, every single time he gets an opportunity, he looks like a starting corner in the NFL. He's smart, he's fast, he's quick, he's got ball skills, he's physical. Isaiah Rodgers needs to be starting over Brandon Faison at this point. And Kenny Moore's got to play better too, man. Seriously. Like, he is getting abused in coverage. Maybe it's a system fit where he's got to turn and run much more as opposed to Eberflus's zone-heavy system. They paid him a lot of money to be a premium slot corner. And honestly, he's kind of been burnt toast this year. I love Kenny Moore. I think he's one of the highest character, smartest corners in this league. But it has not been his year. That is for damn sure. And then the safety, Rodney Thomas out of Yale, actually was drafted as a cornerback. But he's had to play some safety here for this team, and he's playing okay. Nothing crazy there, but getting some reps, not getting abused in coverage, decent tackler. So maybe they have something. Maybe it's just depth, but deserves some recognition. And then these kickers are going to go up. Chase McLaughlin, they seem to have found something there. He's been pretty consistent for them after they let the Mr. Goggles go. And then the punter, Matt Hack, has been good for them as well. All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Star of the month here is going to be the running back Travis Etienne. They let James Robinson go, make this Etienne's backfield, and he made them look right for doing so. So explosive. His ability to break arm tackles has really set him apart. There's times where he's like trying to kick things out a little bit too much, but sometimes he even makes this team right for that. He's been super consistent. First round pick, making Urban Meyer proud, ascending to being one of the more explosive high-end backs in the NFL. But the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, has just had a very streaky season. Now, he is coming off of probably his best game of the season here, week 9 against the Raiders. But, the few weeks before that were not great. Probably would have been a -2, like we said about Zach Wilson. Probably would have been a -2 without week 9 here. So, AFC fans complain about having to wait a week on studs and duds here. But, hey, it saved Trevor Lawrence 1 rating point for what that's worth. But I still believe in Trevor Lawrence. There's been so many flashes there, but it's just, he's a young quarterback. The consistency hasn't been, amazing. But Luke Farrell, limited opportunities. He's been blocking well, catching the ball a couple times when they've gone his way. He's a decent kind of backup type. And then on the offensive line, Brandon Sheriff going to come down. Big free agent signing. Older player. The writing was on the wall that maybe he's not an elite guard anymore. Still no complaints about them signing him to big money to get him in the door. But yeah, I mean, he's not that mauler, people mover. I mean, he still kind of is, but not that elite guy that he was years ago. But yeah, I mean, he's just coming down to, he's still a good player. Tyler Shatley is going to come up one. He stepped in at left guard. Ben Barch, I think, is hurt. Shatley's played well at center for this team. And honestly, I don't know exactly what I would do because I know Fortner, the center, is young and you want him to be the future. And I think he has upside to be that guy. But if you can get Ben Barch back healthy, and I don't know what the situation is there, at least until you're like out of the playoffs, I'd maybe go Shatley back at center where he's had success. Just put the best offensive lineman you can out there. I mean, if nothing else, it'll help Trevor's development. But it's not a huge deal. It's not that Fortner's been terrible. And then over to the defensive side of the ball, Devon Hamilton, he's ascending. A lot of these D linemen, they just take a couple years, and Devon Hamilton seems to have settled in, if nothing else, as a low-end starter, as a run defender who might continue to climb up a little bit. And then Arden Key, just an underrated rotational pass rusher. They move him around a lot of different ways. He's just kind of an agent of chaos, really good on stunts, and a lengthy guy with some get-off. Nice rotational piece there. Linebacker Devin Lloyd is going to come down. He did have a big week last week, but honestly, if you really watch him the last month, teams have been picking on him in coverage, really getting stuck in a bind on a lot of coverage assignments. And the one thing with Devin Lloyd is, as smart as he is, and I do still think, he should have been the pick for the Packers. He went behind Quay Walker, and I still think Devin Lloyd can become a great player. But it is true, he's not the athlete that a guy like Quay Walker or some of these other guys are. So when the mental side of things isn't a step ahead, which it has been at times for Devin Lloyd, but sometimes it's not. For a rookie linebacker, it's just a hard as hell position to play, as we've seen. So if it's not, and he is a little bit slow, it looks a little bit worse, and he can be really out of position. So teams have kind of put him in a bind, and he's still learning, as are a lot of young linebackers. But he's still producing to make a lot of big plays happen as well. I'm definitely not worried about Devin Lloyd, but we bumped him up a couple in the first episode, and I think we got to pump the brakes on that a little bit because he has slowed down after looking like maybe a top 10 linebacker in the first month. He has struggled this month. Then in the secondary, Tyson Campbell, basically a first-round pick for the Jags. I think he was 33rd overall in the 2021 draft. And he has had his ups and downs, but he's had some highlights as well. I just think he's a tough, physical starting corner in this league. I don't know if he's going to be ultra consistent every week and be a dominant corner or anything like that. The tools aren't like off the charts for him, but he's having a good season here in year 2 out of a really good cornerback class. As is Andre Sisco back there. Just looks the part, kind of flies around, gets his hand on footballs. I think he's going to continue climbing as at least a good starting safety in the NFL. But he's a downhill player. Reminded me a lot of Adrian Amos coming out of Penn State. And Amos took a little bit of time to become what he is now. So we'll monitor that with Andre Sisco if he can reach that type of upside. But let's move on to the Houston Texans. You know the star of the month is Dameon Pierce. I mean, he's the only reason this team is remotely watchable. He is absolutely absurd. I'm going to look this up. I think he has 50 broken tackles already this year. So let's just put that in perspective real quick. So he has 50 missed tackles forced. Now, it's a good year for running backs this year. You got Nick Chubb has 51 missed tackles forced. You have Josh Jacobs also with 51 missed tackles forced. So he's right there with those guys, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs. But let's just go back a year. Missed tackles forced on a full season from 2021. Josh Jacobs there with 60. Javonte Williams with 63. Jonathan Taylor with the year he had last year, 66. So Dameon Pierce is on track for like 80 or 90 missed tackles forced. And I'm just clicking through. I mean, Derrick Henry in 2020 had 77. 2019, Derrick Henry again with 71. That just puts it in perspective with how elite this guy is at shrugging guys off, fighting for tough yardage. He has been unbelievable. And I don't even know if people realize quite how good he's been. So he's going to go up 7 here. Just because, I mean, he is coming up from a pretty low rating there that I don't think was like unjustified or anything. But Dameon Pierce could very well be like one of the best backs in this league if we just continue to see him play at this rate. Moving on, Nico Collins has been really consistent at wide receiver. From a group that they have gotten no consistency from, he is just a mainstay. Now, they don't have an explosive passing game to really funnel things through him, but if nothing else, he feels like a really reliable perimeter piece there. And, it's going to be an underrated room there for the Texans for hopefully Bryce Young is what they want. Hopefully they can work things out with Brandon Cooks. That doesn't feel promising right now. But if you got Cooks, Nico Collins, John Mechie coming back, a guy like Dameon Pierce, and as we're going to see here, a tackle duo that's playing really well, this can turn around in a hurry with the right quarterback. But yeah, as I mentioned, those tackles are playing really well. Titus Howard's having his best year. They're going to have to pay him. That's fine. He's playing for that contract. He's earned it. Former first-round pick with a lot of athletic tools, showing the right development there. But Laramie Tunsil, I got to give him a ton of respect, man. He has probably been the best tackle in football this year, and it's not just as a pass protector where he has been shut down, but he's been probably having his best year as a run blocker with really no incentive to do that either. It's a shit show here. He's being paid. He has the gas mask incident coming out, question like, oh, what's his off-field character like? No, this dude is a machine. He's a professional. He's showing up week in, week out, and he has been unbelievable. So it is pretty amazing to think that the Houston Texans have a player like this. Like, they have the best left tackle in football. Pretty crazy that he doesn't really get talked about. But inversely, the guy next to him is really struggling. Kenyon Green looked okay out the gate, but really the last 4 or 5 weeks, he has been a turnstile in pass protection. It's a concern. He's a young player. They hoped he would be a day one impact at guard. I will say, and it just might take some time there, I still believe in him again, but got to come down. And then on the defensive side of the ball, a couple of vets in the secondary playing really well. Desmond King having his best year in a few years in year 2 of Lovie Smith's defense. And Steven Nelson, he got a shout out in my top 10 cornerbacks power rankings video. I mean, he is playing his ass off. He's only 29 years old. Whether he gets a contract extension here for Houston to be their number 2 corner for a couple years, I mean, this is in theory, like if Stingley can, I think Stingley's been fine these last few weeks. If Stingley can continue to grow into their number 1, Steven Nelson's a good number 2. You got Desmond King as a slot guy. I know those guys are a little bit older, but there's still some like hope and some pieces in critical positions for this Texans team. And a big part of that as well is Jalen Petre's got to figure things out, man. Jalen Petre does not look like that player at Baylor. And honestly, a big part of that is he was a slot corner at Baylor, right? So like he's now asked to play too high and come downhill and, play two shell and protect the whole shot down the sideline and cover 2, where he's not able to rotate and get over there in time. He is learning basically an entirely new position. I could certainly see a world where like maybe they let Desmond King walk and use Jalen Petre as a slot corner where he was so freaking good. But yeah, the transition to the NFL as a guy that was used in a bit of a unique safety position at Baylor, it hasn't been a seamless transition. It's just a reminder of scheme fit, and you can't just take a guy that was good at something else and expect he's going to be good doing a different thing, at least not immediately. All right, the Tennessee Titans, ton of movement here. They have really been trying to figure out who their players are this year, and what a weird season it's been for them. But some movement for the offense to begin with, starting with your star of the month, Derrick Henry, who is back to being King Henry, honestly. I mean, first couple weeks were a little bit slow for him, and I just wondered at his age, coming off an injury. We saw him slow down a little bit in the playoffs. Obviously was just rushing back from an injury, didn't look the same. I mean, he is kind of putting the team on his back in a metaphorical sense and in a literal sense in a lot of ways as well. But what has he got? 5 straight weeks of 100+ yard games. I'm looking this up as we go here. He's got 5 straight weeks. He had his 4th straight game against the Houston Texans with 200+ yards. Yeah, he back, man. Derrick Henry, King Henry. Nick Chubb's great too, but I'm still giving it to Derrick Henry. He's going up 2 from a efficiency standpoint. What he's doing these last 4 weeks is some of the best football he's ever played at 28 years old. So he's unique, man. He's, I think, probably cemented a Hall of Fame career here with his performance just this season. He's still got some ahead of him, I think. But he's getting a little bit of relief there from Dontrell Hilliard, who's doing a nice little rotational job there as a scat back and change of pace. Robert Woods is going to come down. It's not that Robert Woods has been terrible, but still kind of being rated off of those glory days on the Rams, coming off the ACL injury. The separation hasn't really been there. The explosiveness hasn't been there. They're still happy they have him, and he, again, hasn't been bad, but hasn't really been that explosive player either. So just coming down a little bit. Then these 2 tight ends are going to come up. Austin Hooper, we actually lowered in the first episode there. And he has settled into a role with this offense, coming down with some tough catches there a couple weeks ago. And, he's been solid. But Chig Okonkwo kind of stealing the show. Dominant performance against the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been run blocking really well. I love this football player. Compared him coming out to the love child of Jonnu Smith and Kyle Juszczyk. And he has been every bit of that comp in the NFL as that kind of wing hybrid player. He's like 6'2", 240 pounds, but he blocks his ass off just like Juice. He's got great run after catch ability, just like Jonnu, who we remember here on this Titans team, even though that was my comp on him before he was a Tennessee Titan. It's just a perfect fit. I can see a really good career for Chig Okonkwo in this system here in Tennessee. Nicolas Petit-Frere. I need to learn a French accent so I can say that like I do with Hjalti Froholt. But Petit-Frere has been solid. Nothing great, honestly, but he's been run blocking well. He's been adequate as a pass protector. He's holding off the second-round pick from last year. Name's escaping me, the guy out of North Dakota State. He's been holding him off at right tackle still as the year's gone on. He's been fine. 3rd-round pick there in Petit-Frere. So just getting a low-end starter or like a bottom tier starter in Petit Frere, but not bad for a third-round pick, honestly. Then we've got a bunch of movement on this defense. I mean, they have had injuries. They've brought in guys off the street. It is just a motley crew of dudes that want to play defense for Mike Vrabel here. So let's get through it. Jeffrey Simmons is a superstar dude. I mean, he's having his best year for sure. He's reaching that potential. You can't watch a Titans game without seeing him just throw guys to the side and get after the quarterback. Been a more consistent run defender as well. The Titans have the best run defense in the NFL this year, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Jeffrey Simmons is doing his best work up front this year as a run defender. And then, again, it's just mostly like rotational guys here. Kevin Strong playing 10, 15 snaps a game, comes in, comes off, and gets a pat on the back from Mike Vrabel. Tyler Tart has been a bit of a breakout star, honestly. He's a big-bodied dude, a little bit shorter, but really strong and kind of juiced up. Just kind of a nasty, I love the term agent of chaos up front. But his pass rushing has stood out this year. He's been okay as a run defender, just as kind of a disruptive piece. So they've got a piece there in Tyler Tart. Both these kind of tweener edge types, Mario Edwards, DeMarcus Walker, they're the same player. And they said, you know what, let's just have two of these guys who are 280-pound, again, hybrid defensive ends with great get-off. And, if you split that workload in half and add a competition factor where these guys got to earn those reps, well, they're going to come in and play with their absolute hair on fire, push the pocket, and play physical and run defense. Both these guys are playing better against the run than they probably have in years past. So they're buying into the culture here. Two veterans with, at a point in time were viewed as high upside prospects wherever they were. I think both these guys were like third-round picks. Both guys get picked up and are playing some of their better football here. You got Rashad Weaver on the edge, still getting a ton of snaps there. Just a persistent guy. He's still, young and developing. He's basically a rookie after missing his real rookie season last year. But he's been a nice piece up front. And then both these linebackers, David Long is having an excellent year here, continuing to kind of break out for this Titans defense. Just kind of flies around the field, smart, fast, physical player, good blitzer as well. And then Dylan Cole really had to step up with Zach Cunningham getting hurt for a few weeks, to the point where Cunningham was actually healthy last week against the Chiefs, but they rotated these guys, which makes sense because Cole traditionally has been a really good cover linebacker, but comes in here as a veteran playing for more money and more contracts and playing some of his more physical, best tackling run defense type of defense that he's had in his career. And he played for Mike Vrabel's Texans way back when. So there's a connection there. Then in the secondary, Roger McCreary has quietly been just really stable. It's not that he doesn't lose. He does, but for a rookie corner, you could get a hell of a lot worse than what they're getting from Roger McCreary. And, I mean, he was just such a consistent player coming out of Auburn, right, for Roger McCreary? Yeah. But, yeah, just technique, press technique for a shorter guy. He's just stable. He rides guys' hip pockets. Makes sense that he's having success here for this Titans team. And then Christian Fulton has settled in. We actually lowered him in the first episode, but he has totally turned that back around and a little bit. So I love Christian Fulton. I always have. Good to see him playing well on the back end for the Titans. And then Andrew Adams, a safety pickup out of nowhere, is actually playing really good on the back end. Just the epitome of how this Titans team just finds guys out of nowhere to play well for them. Just really impressive when you look at some of these names. It is a team effort here, and it's cranking out one of the best defenses in the league right now that played really well against the Chiefs. And now we have our final division here. Star of the month for the Denver Broncos, Patrick Surtain, another guy getting lost in the sauce who's stealing all the headlines, but Patrick Surtain is right there as far as dominant young corner with elite play on the field and elite potential. Patrick Surtain probably deserves some more conversation than he's getting, so let's give it to him. He's been locked down on the outside. He's allowed the Broncos to run more man coverage, to blitz more in a system that traditionally doesn't love to do it. I mean, I love Sauce, but it's either him or Pat Surtain, right? Like, they are the premium corners in the NFL, just as we ranked them a week ago in my wide receiver corner power rankings video. Go check that out if you want to hear even more about Pat Surtain and see some of his stats and how good he's truly been this year. But let's visit the offense here. So these running backs coming down, Melvin Gordon, that one speaks for itself. He's kind of lost this job and hasn't been efficient when they've gone to him. And then Chase Edmonds going to come down for his play in Miami. They just kind of toss him in that trade for Bradley Chubb. And he was really bad for the Dolphins. Just not a lot of explosiveness, not breaking tackles. And they gave him some money and got rid of him quickly. So we'll see what he can do here in Denver coming off the bye week. And then Courtland Sutton's going to come down. It's not that he's been horrible, but rated pretty nicely there at an 84. He hasn't been separating at a super high level. I don't think he's free of blame for like some of Russ's struggles, and he's not always coming down with those tough catches. So he's had some plays. He hasn't been horrible, but I think there was higher expectations for what he was going to look like this year, and it's not all Russ's fault, right? But Greg Dulcich, on the other hand, huge breakout, getting out there recently, and he looks explosive. He looks the part. He seems to have kind of taken that tight end one job from Alberto, at least as this team's receiving threat. And looks like a good pick there for Greg Dulcich. Excited to see him continue to get more opportunities. Explosive tight end in a good system that can scheme him open and get him in space to be a playmaker. On the offensive line, Cameron Fleming continues to play well. And, they went back to Billy Turner when he got back healthy, but I don't know. Cam Fleming's pretty damn good too. It's a good problem to have. They're actually both rated as a 73 for me, but I don't know if I would have gone back to Billy Turner after Cam Fleming's been playing so well for you. Calvin Anderson as well has been a total backup rotational guy, but every time he gets out there, he looks pretty good. I liked him at Texas, was surprised I think he went undrafted. I thought he had some tools, and he's kind of showing them here for Denver. So they have a good problem to have. They have a ton of depth on this offensive line. They can endure injuries and really not miss too much of a beat. That's one of the better things the Broncos have going for them, at least on the offensive side of the ball. But on defense, it's been a fun unit to watch, man. So we got Mike Purcell going up, just a tough veteran dude defending the run up front. But these two young edge rushers are really exciting. Baron Browning and Nick Bonito. Both guys have been really efficient, and both guys have been kind of unleashed lately, and I think these guys are a big part of the Bradley Chubb trade. Straight up, both these guys have higher upside than a Bradley Chubb. They're more explosive, they're more bendy, more quickness, everything, you name it, and they're kind of delivering, man. Nick Bonito the last couple weeks he was either hurt or just buried in the depth chart or something, but they've been turning to him, letting him loose. He's been getting after the quarterback. We've seen now what Baron Browning has been able to do on primetime, the uber athlete that converted from linebacker to edge, that it looks like Ohio State just mishandled his collegiate prospects. So this is an incredibly high upside duo. They still have Randy Gregory, and I think these guys are going to continue to climb as the year goes on. And they use these guys really well on stunts and stuff too, just to kind of keep offensive lines honest on them. So really exciting duo. Then you get to the second level. Alex Singleton has been balling out, just playing with that long blonde hair on fire, flying around, making tackles, and he's been a good player for them, good pickup at a linebacker room that they really needed to find somebody. And then Damari Mathis has had an up and down rookie year, but that kind of happens when you're a fourth round corner. He kind of looks the part to me. He's had some more rough performances. That's fine. But a physical dude, loved his man technique. And I like that he's playing. He's getting some experience. And I think they have something there in Damari Mathis. He just needs to continue to settle down and play with more discipline. But yeah, a guy I liked coming out was one of my guys. Surprisingly made my top 10 corners list. And it's been fun to see him out there kind of making some plays, even if he's losing some assignments in the process. And then K'Wan Williams, I kind of tried to tell you guys this was coming. I mean, he is flying around the field. He's having his most consistent year in coverage. What he did for the Niners in the second half of last year was incredible. And he has come in here for Denver and lit a spark in the slot. Honestly, I mean, he to me, might be the best slot corner in the NFL right now. I kind of had a gut feeling that was how I felt coming into the year. But to see him now go to a different team, a different system, he's 31 years old, so it's a little bit tough. He's a guy who's had some off-the-field concerns throughout his career, but God, he is everywhere for Denver and for the Niners last year. So he's going up too. And then the special teams, Brandon McManus has been missing some kicks for Denver, so he's going to come down. And then this punter, Corliss Waitman, going up 4. He's having a good year, kicking the ball away for this offense that's punting all the time. All right, we've got the LA Chargers, a ton of movement for this team. Star of the month for the Chargers is Jamari Salyer. That one is easy. I mean, they lose Rashawn Slater at left tackle. Looks like doom and gloom that Justin Herbert's going to be getting his ass beat. And Salyer has not allowed a sack yet. He's been locked down at left tackle, a late pick, I think 5th round, maybe 6th round pick. He has kind of saved this team's season, honestly. They're not really worried about it, and I think he's going to continue to grow as well. As long as he keeps playing like this, he certainly will. But Justin Herbert is going to come down. He's not playing horrible, but he's not playing like that top 5 quarterback that we had him rated as and we expected him to play as. He's been a little bit too conservative and not really playing with that it factor. I want to see more from Justin Herbert. I think everybody does. A lot of this is the receivers are hurt. The offensive play calling hasn't been great, so that's why it's only 1. I don't think this is like some massive change for him, and he certainly can turn things around. But yeah, I think everybody's left a little bit underwhelmed by Justin Herbert this year. Then these wide receivers, Joshua Palmer, especially this last week, week 9, really stepped up. Looks the part as kind of that crafty intermediate receiver. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Kendrick Bourne in a little bit of a ways, or like a poor man's Keenan Allen here. So you can see why they like him. DeAndre Carter is going to come down 1. Good start. We raised him in the last episode, but has had those opportunities given to him with these receivers getting hurt, and honestly just hasn't stepped up in a consistent way. On the offensive line as well, a lot of movement beyond Jamari Salyer. So Trey Pipkins is also playing well at right tackle. So, those tackles really have not been a problem for them, which is was a huge concern, especially when Salyer got hurt. So that's been a big reason why this team has continued to win games is they've been buying some time there. A big part of that as well is Matt Filer has turned things back around. We lowered him in the first episode of Studs and Duds. He's going to get 1 back here. He's been bunkering down in pass pro. And then Will Clapp got another start in there, and he seems to be just a good backup center for Corey Linsley there. He's been pretty solid in pass pro when they've got to turn to him. But unfortunately, Zion Johnson is going to come down. He has just been worse. No way around it. Came out the gate really hot. I don't know if this is a rookie slump or what. Could be just, a pump the brakes moment on a really talented guard who's still had a good year, but there has been some losses and some ugly games out there in recent weeks for Zion Johnson. Then over the defensive side of the ball, the Sebastian Joseph Day signing just not really working out, man. There was definitely some concerns what he was going to look like ripped out from the Rams, not getting to play with Aaron Donald next to him, and they gave him a decent chunk of money, and he has not played up to that payday. His Chargers run defense has continued to struggle, and he's been a part of that. They brought him in here to set the tone up front, and he's not been able to do that. Khalil Mack also needs to come down. I know he runs up to Drake London and has one of the defensive plays of the week, if not the year, just ripping the ball out of his hands. Clutch play there. It doesn't relate to his pass rush production that has not lived up to his elite pedigree. It really has not. He's been a good pass rusher. He's had some flash wins, but his pressure rate is just not what it's been in years past. So he's got to come down. Kyle Van Noy has been kind of a liability. I don't know if this is just classic Kyle Van Noy, like leaves the Belichick system and isn't as good, or if he is just getting older, but I mean, he's just been another guy out there. So he's coming down. That was a signing that a lot of people had excitement about that has not lived up to any sort of expectations, whether he's on the edge or on the inside. It hasn't mattered. Now, Drew Tranquill has been really fun to watch. His first step is really nice, and he pairs it mentally and just shows a lot of flashes. You can see it when he blitzes, but he's been a better run defender this year. So, he's just a solid starting caliber linebacker. Unlike Kenneth Murray, he's this team's Quay Walker, just athletic dude. Hopefully this isn't a sign for the Packers that he's not going to develop in 3 years, because that's been Kenneth Murray. He just hasn't been able to figure the game out. I mean, he's almost always a step late. He's out of position. He's a huge problem for this run defense that has struggled this year, right? So he's pretty much a bust. He is a bust. I don't think there's much he could do to really turn that around at this point, because he's going to have his fifth-year option most guaranteed declined. He's going to be heading into year 4. You basically got to turn it around in the next 10 games or so if he doesn't get benched before then. Then in the secondary, these guys have actually played pretty well, and J.C. Jackson's obviously going to come down here. I don't want to add insult to injury, but he was just horrible. Like, he was literally the worst corner in the NFL when he was here for the Chargers. So you paid him a lot of money. You had high expectations that he would turn things around, but him getting hurt was not the worst thing that could have happened to this defense, because Michael Davis steps in and he's ready to go. He's started a lot of games in this league, and he's fine. You got Asante Samuel taking a step up this year. He's continued to just use that quickness and use his football IQ, use those ability to break on balls, and yeah, he's been a solid kind of low-end number 1 corner for them. And then Bryce Callahan, they replaced him in Denver with K'Wan Williams, because Bryce was so bad last year, but he seems to be healthy and playing much better here, reunited with Brandon Staley. So this unit's kind of settling in. It really is. And they've been blitzing more up front, and these guys are holding up. And then I wanted to shout out Jerry Tillery. He's kind of had a decent run. He's not dominating or anything, but this is a guy that's been a liability for the Chargers, and he's gotten after the quarterback a little bit. He's holding up a little bit up front. I want to see a little bit more consistency there, but he has my attention there. Jerry Tillery on the D-line, obviously a former first-round pick, and another bust for this regime. All right, we got the Kansas City Chiefs now. We've got Travis Kelce as the star of the month, joining the 99 club. It's time. I mean, he's one of the best players in football. He's doing it again. His chemistry with Patrick Mahomes and just everything he does for this team, it's time. I don't have a lot of 99s. I think he's the only one right now other than Aaron Donald. A couple of these other guys are creeping up there, but it just shows you what I think of Travis Kelce, making him the star of the month, joining the 99 club. And yeah, let's move on. With the offense, a lot of movement here. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming down. We raised him in the last episode. Looked pretty good, but just, man, fell off. Can't break a tackle. Can't hit a hole. Their run game has been non-existent. They've kind of benched him and gone to Isaiah Pacheco. It just hasn't been there for Clyde. I don't think Chiefs fans are going to argue with that one. Both these receivers, Mecole Hardman and MVS, being utilized perfectly within this offense. Mecole Hardman, it is a lot of gadget stuff, but he's making some plays down the field. He's having probably his most consistent season. Maybe a little bit pissed off that they went and got Kadarius Toney probably to replace him. I think he's got some motivation. I think he's figuring some stuff out, and could be don't be surprised if Mecole Hardman gets a bigger contract than you think. Like, I'm not going to go full Christian Kirk for him, but maybe $15 million a year for Mecole Hardman for one of these teams that are desperate. I'm just going to call my shot there. I don't know if it happens or not, but if it does, you heard it here first. Then Marquez Valdes-Scantling, they're using him, right? Like, he just was non-existent for the first few weeks, but he's made some nice catches out there, and he can be a deep threat. He's a limited player, but in the role that they use him, you can see why they paid him, and he's been a nice player for them. Noah Gray also going up, another tight end. He's athletic, he's playing physical, he's coming down to some tough catches. I think they feel pretty optimistic that he can be groomed here under Travis Kelce. I don't know how many years we've got left from Travis Kelce, but Noah Gray feels like, he might not be Travis Kelce, he certainly won't be, but learn some stuff and maybe can be a tight end of the future here for the Chiefs. And then Trey Smith's going to come down because, pass protection's never really been elite for him, and it's continued to be an issue. But he's not mauling dudes up front in the run game like he was last year, so he's going to come down a tick. Still a talented young player, though. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Derek Nadi has had a horrible season. He's as good as gone here. Just has been getting paved out of the way in the run game. And he kind of needs to be benched, honestly. He's been so bad. He's been bad for a couple years here, but I don't know if the injuries have stacked up for him or if he just doesn't give a shit anymore. I don't know what it is, but he is terrible. Unlike Chris Jones, who looks like a guy that maybe is back to full defensive tackle playing strength because he is mauling dudes. He's having his best year in run defense. He's been their best hope in run defense up front. And on top of that, is he the most efficient interior rusher this year? Like even ahead of Aaron Donald? Let me just do some real quick like podcasting here. So if you go to interior defensive line, well, he's the highest graded per PFF, but actually Jeffrey Simmons has more pressures. I mean, he's kicking ass. He is absolutely kicking ass. He's been a monster, having maybe his best year, up to a 95 there for Chris Jones. Yeah, let's move on. Linebacker Darius Harris has gotten some opportunities as a part of a rotation. They suspend Willie Gay here, and he's been kind of flushed into a starting opportunity, and he's maybe outplayed Willie Gay in certain lights. He's just been a consistent run defender and a consistent tackler. Just a nice little depth piece there. I don't think there's more than that there in Darius Harris, but he's played really well. And then Nick Bolton, man, I thought about him for Star of the Month. He just looks the part, dude. He's a throwback, but he's born and raised in the SEC and in this modern era. So, like, he doesn't overcommit on play action. He has some feel in zone, but he plays like Denzel Perriman, right? Like, he plays downhill. He wants to crush you, and he will crush you. An excellent tackler, but he's not a lost cause in coverage either. Nick Bolton is fantastic for this team. I didn't love this pick because I didn't think he was a super high upside guy. I thought he was going to be like a Denzel Perriman. Nope. He is really consistent across the board. One of the better, more underrated linebackers in the league climbing up. Rashad Fenton, we don't really need to talk about him, but hasn't had the best year. He gets traded to Atlanta. He's going to come down 4. Just kind of fell off. Was a really good player on a contract year, and maybe he still is a really good player. We'll see how he looks for Atlanta, and maybe that's just a steal of a trade. But obviously the Chiefs didn't want to pay him. So Josh Williams, young corner here, has been fine. You know, he's not balling out or anything, but for a late round rookie corner to step in and not be a complete liability, that's impressive. So he's going up 3. On the back end, Justin Reed got to come down a little bit. I had to rated him really well there at an 82. He just has not played up to that rating. He's got to come down. It hasn't been a horrible year for Justin Reed, but the tackling issues have definitely been there for him. And he's just kind of been another guy back there. I thought he would be a star here in this system, and it just hasn't happened yet. And then the kicker, Harrison Butker, has been in a slump, man. The last couple weeks, missing kicks, and I'm sure he'll be fine, but he needed to come down for that. -2 for Butker. And then Tommy Townsend might be the best punter in the NFL right now. Leads the league in hang time, and he is just booming the ball away. Really impressive year for Townsend. Not like the Chiefs really need the best punter in the league, but why not have him? I also need to give a shout out to Trent McDuffie. I've got him rated really highly. I loved this pick in the first round there, and he finally gets out there, gets healthy, and played really well in that last game against the Titans. Now, that's not the biggest test, and again, we've got him rated pretty well as a 76, but played really well. So if he continues to play like that, he will go up. And then finally, we have the lost Vegas Raiders, who have had such a bad season here, but not all bad. Their star of the month, Josh Jacobs. We were reading off those missed tackles forced numbers earlier. He was one of 2 guys over 50 broken tackles this year. I mean, he has been incredible playing for that contract this year. Going to be fascinating to see what happens. Do the Raiders piss him off by franchise tagging him? What happens here with Josh Jacobs after such an incredible season for the former first-round pick? That jump cut, that acceleration, the vision, the toughness to run through arm tackles. He has been a special player for the Raiders. There's been so many good running backs this year. It really has been the year of the running back. So I can't say he's the best back in the league with what some of these other guys are doing, but he's made it the year of the running back, or helped make it the year of the running back. You get the damn point. Let's move on. Derek Carr coming down. He's not playing very good football. He's been fine. He's been middle of the road. But he's not elevating here. He's not making a ton of big plays. He has missed throws. He has put the ball in harm's way. I don't even think Raiders fans are going to disagree. He's just got to come down. He's not been as good as he was last year in what was maybe his best season last year. Devontae Adams is going to come down 1. Nothing major here, but he just, he hasn't been that best receiver in the NFL that he was last year, and I don't think that's controversial. But he's still going to be rated 96 there. I think that's still second now behind Tyreek Hill. Hunter Renfrow definitely has to come down. I mean, I know he's been hurt, but even when he's been healthy, he just hasn't been very efficient. He hasn't been a focal point of the offense. He feels like just Joe Schmo, random slot receiver this year after being like incredible last year. So I don't know what that's all about. You would think in a Josh McDaniels offense, he would fit right in with option routes and the quick hitting passing game, but nope, he's been nowhere to be found. Foster Moreau has really stepped up with those injuries to Darren Waller. I think Moreau is in a contract year himself, a talented player, a guy that really fits that mold of definitely someone like Dawson Knox, or maybe compare him to like Daniel Bellinger, someone that's just never really gotten those big opportunities to thrive in the receiving game. But now he's been looked at as a starting tight end, and I think someone should pay him as a decent starting tight end with good physical tools and receiving prowess. On the offensive line, these guys continue to just kind of play all right. You got Thayer Munford has been like rotating, I guess. They like him, but maybe not enough to make him a full-time starter. You've had Jermaine Illuminor's got some starts at right tackle. Both guys have played pretty well. I think they're just really, they've dealt with some injuries, but they're trying to figure out what their best starting 5 is. But these guys they've played well. Both Illuminor and Thayer Munford, the rookie out of Ohio State. And then onto the defensive side of the ball, just some veterans playing well, and Andrew Billings and Duron Harmon. But beyond that, you got to lower a bunch of these guys. So Chandler Jones, this has been one of the worst transactions of the offseason. Just Rock Ya-Sin's been fine, and at least you need someone in the secondary there. And it's not like Yannick has been incredible, but they're getting way less from Chandler Jones than what they got from Yannick last year. That was that was the most productive edge duo in the NFL last year. And Chandler Jones has been one of the most inefficient pass rushers in football. He's 33 years old. He's a guy that was never overly explosive. So if he's losing some of the explosiveness that he did had, and they're paying him, he has been really bad. So he's coming down. He started the year as an 85. He's come down about as hard as anyone here. And the writing was on the wall with this, right? He's had a couple of really big games over the last few years, but his efficiency has not been all that good. So, yeah, Chandler Jones coming way down to a 79. Denzel Perriman coming down as well. It's about that tackling consistency. You're still seeing the same hot-headed downhill approach, but after his best year last year, he's starting to miss a lot more tackles this year. That's really what that's all about. And then Blake Martinez, God, he looks like pit of the barrel Packers Blake Martinez out there. He gets the start last week and just abused in coverage. Credited, I think, with 100 passing yards allowed against that Jags defense that loves to attack the middle of the field. They saw Blake Martinez out there, and they're like, all right, anybody, just go run at him, and he's going to fall over himself. He's got to go. Blake Martinez has never been able to move in space. He had that one good year for the Giants where they were able to kind of neutralize that by using a guy like Jabril Peppers down in the box as that cover safety. Well, they don't have that guy here. They got to play these guys in space a little bit more. And God, it is just as ugly as it always was in Green Bay with Blake Martinez when you ask him to do that. Then you got Duron Harmon. We mentioned Duron Harmon. Safety playing well. He's like 500 years old, back in a Belichick system. He knows what he's doing there. But you'd like to see him coach up Trayvon Merrick a little bit because, I love Trayvon Merrick. Had a great rookie season. Was really good in that cover 3 heavy system with Gus Bradley as that single high free safety. But whatever they're asking him to do here, it ain't working. He's given up 2 touchdowns the last 3 weeks. I still think he's a really promising young player, and you're definitely going to build around him in that defense as you look to build up this defense, but he's got to play better for sure. And there we go, 16 up, 16 down. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, before we get out of here, please do hit that like button down below. Comment for the algorithm. Make sure you're subscribed. If nothing else, thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Peace out.